Hey, Calvin.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
It's going super well.
Yeah,
Awesome to be here with you today.
agreed. Same. I'm back home. Good to be home, but I'll be going away
Nice.
again later this afternoon, back to Chicago.
Okay.
So,
Chicago's not that far.
no, it's
I
true.
know it's not close, but it's. Are you
Yeah.
flying?
No. Try it. The car
Yeah.
knows its way to Chicago like by itself.
Yeah. Basically,
It's a good
just
town.
cruise control,
Yeah.
triple click the right arrow, then the up arrow, then it goes to Chicago.
Yep.
It's just
Pretty
it's
much.
like a hot key, like one of those old Xbox hacks sort of things.
We'll put it in the next tools episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I lived in West Lafayette, so I drove that
Yeah,
Chicago
you know
trip a
it.
few times
You
myself.
know it.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, we have many things that have Python news, and we should tell people about them.
We totally should.
Hello, and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 488, and it is Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. I'm Michael Kennedy.
And I'm Calvin Hendricks Parker. Happy Bastille Day.
Yes, indeed. Happy Bastille Day to you. And this episode is brought to you by us, so check out our things. Courses over at Talk Python. I have many in the works, competing for what comes next. Maybe Rust. I think a Rust course is going to be next out the gate. So we'll talk more about that at some point soon. If you have a project and you would like some expert help for the really hard projects, reach out to 6 Feet Up.
Definitely.
You can subscribe to our newsletter. Got some nice announcements there. Follow us on all the socials and watch us live or the replays on YouTube. Every episode has a little YouTube thumbnail. If you click it, guess what you get? YouTube, the YouTube version. So we appreciate the people who are part of the live show, but definitely not required. And with that, Calvin, I would say
We should kick
I
off.
want to talk about the InnoSuch blog.
Yes. Who do you trust? It was interesting. This is actually a pair of blog posts that both came out last week on the 7th. One from William Woodruff, that's this blog right here, and the other one's actually from Brett Cannon, which I'll show here in a second. But they're both around trusted publishing and who you should trust. What I think is important to understand, and I think what they both emphasize in their posts, is that trusted publishing is not for you, it is for the machines. So if you're not familiar with trusted publishing, it is PyPI's OIDC based auth scheme. So you can now, it's used by other groups too, NPM, Ruby Gems, Crates, and NuGet. They basically want to replace long-lived API tokens with short-lived auto-scoped credentials tied to the CI/CD machine identity. So this may sound really great and like you could trust everything coming out of these tools, but really what it's about is making sure that the places the software is coming from and going to is trusted. And you can actually see that in this post. William goes into why you shouldn't trust trusted publishing alone. And then the other post is actually from Brett Cannon, which I thought was actually quite interesting, which is how to publish to PyPI using GitHub Actions securely. And he actually mentions Zizmore. How do you pronounce that? Is that the right pronunciation of the tool? So William wrote the tool mentioned in here, and he also mentioned in his own own post.
The security episode I just did with the Python security folks, Mike Fiedler and Seth and Juanita, they called it Zizmore, I believe.
Zizmore. We'll go Zizmore then.
I believe.
Mike would know, and Mike will correct me momentarily. I'm sure.
But you gotta trust me. I mean, speaking about trust, you gotta trust that I'm remembering this
Right,
correctly.
they remember correctly. But this is a tool that will help you make the CI/CD actions happy. So once you make Zizmore happy, it's going to reduce scopes of tokens and double check for things like the old API tokens being in existence and what their scopes may be. It'll also make sure that when you do a checkout in GitHub Actions, the credentials that are used for that checkout act as you, and then you can make sure that things like those remain short-lived, and so that those don't persist throughout the rest of that run, keeping the building of your package or your software separate from the publishing of your package and the software. So keeping those kinds of concerns separate from one another helps you make sure that these kinds of attestations can be made and have some level of assurances that you're doing the right things, that things are going the right places, that no one's exploiting something they shouldn't be. So it's a little bit of like least privilege wrapped around the ability to establish trust between the machines that are building and the machine that would be publishing it. If you want to see an example of this, you can look at the Zizmore package. You'll see this is William's package that does the kind of work you need to make sure that you're doing the right practices. You'll see this verified details over here on PyPI. Again, this does not mean that this package is of a known quality or you should definitely include it as a dependency into your system. It just means that these are verified and have come from trusted sources, that the person who is listed here as maintainer, has some level of control or has exercised some proof of ownership over these pieces. You'll also notice in PyPI that there are unverified details like the homepage and documentation in this specific case. So you can look for those as levels of quality that you want to like check into when you want to look into including a package like this, but don't confuse trusted with trustworthy. You make sure you have human judgment in the loop about the package you're getting ready to bring in to your potential project. This is no substitute also for securing your own CI pipeline or actually vetting the packages that you installed. So stay diligent out there, but this is another great way to keep things tidy, secure, exercise some least privilege. If something does happen, it can help contain the blast radius. If something were to sneak into your CI pipeline and try and exploit something that it shouldn't, hopefully you've narrowed down the scopes for the OIDC tokens so that they couldn't do those actions.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
And William Woodruff is, by the way, from the Astral team.
Yes.
And UV and all that. So, they've thought a little bit about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, table stakes, just use this tool no matter what. It's going to give you at least some level of clarity around your current state of operations for the CI/CD pipeline.
Yeah, I asked at the end of the Talk Python episode was about, there's a whole security track at PyCon. I said, let's go through all the talks there and kind of like talk about the arc that's telling about Python security, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, I said, what is one thing people can do to be better at Python security? I think 2 out of 3 people said Sysmore.
Yeah.
Just use it.
Yep. And Brett Cannon's post here is a really just a straight walkthrough of the 3 or 4 things you should just be doing out of the box by default. So follow his instructions. He knows a lot of this stuff, better than we all do. Mm-hmm. I trust Brett, and Brett will make sure you get trusted publishing in place, but don't just trust it blindly.
Okay. Amazing.
Michael, what you got?
I want to talk about what I thought would be just a small little extra at the end. Oh, hey, everyone. New release, point release of Jupyter Notebooks and Jupyter Lab. Nope. It is a lot. And let me just jump to the end here. And I don't need to see a pop-up. That's fun. But it says, as large as minor releases get, basically. So Jupyter Lab.
Bump right up against the ceiling.
Exactly. They're like, we almost called it a new release, but we didn't want to update the docs drop down. So it says this Jupyter Lab release includes 68 new features, 97 bug fixes, 38 documentation improvements, 95 contributors, and 171 maintenance tasks.
Very minor.
I would just call this consider it a pretty big release, let's say. So there's a couple of things, and I think probably the most efficient way is to just pull up this little diagram that they've annotated of Jupyter. This is Jupyter Lab. By the way, you can test this out online, and there's a test it in Jupyter Lite. Are you familiar with Jupyter Lite?
No. So
if you go to Jupyter Lite, available in Jupyter Lite, let me click that and see what happens. I'm glad that opened a new window. So Jupyter Lite is basically a WASM, WebAssembly powered Jupyter, and uses local storage and stuff for it. So like I'm pulling up here, and there you have it, like full on Jupyter Lab, but running Jupyter Lite, like in a browser, right?
In the
browser.
That's sweet. That is pretty sweet.
Yeah, like full client side, nothing but just a download there.
Well, I think that's a smart
move. So you can, so you can test this out.
Bring your Jupyter notebook to your data wherever it lives.
exactly. It's all powered by Pyodide. So you can test these changes out there. But let me pull up the little diagram. And it says you have a new activity bar options like files or extensions or whatever. There's breadcrumbs. So like on the left in Jupyter Lab, you've got a file browser. So you can like open Python or IPYNB files. And now there's a breadcrumb that you can edit. Mac OS should take this to heart, please, someday, maybe, that you can just type up there in, it'll say you're in this directory and you put your cursor there. And guess what you can do? You can like go to a subdirectory or another folder. Very cool. So that's there. I guess it was missing that it didn't show the creation date. It only showed modified in file04. So now you can figure out the creation dates. You can move the sections in that whole left panel, and I guess the right one around as well. You can take stuff out of the sidebar, like widgets out of the sidebar. That's kind of cool, and make them more top level. So you can create I'm feeling that you might like this, Calvin. So you can create this like custom layout here.
Yeah, I do like my tiles.
Yeah, it's got a kind of a VS Code like drop down when you hit play for the debugger. So that kind of drops in right in the middle. So it's easy to understand your debugging and chase that around. You can add hotkeys from the editor. It has a cell number count. In the debugger, you can like filter out your different sources and interact with the kernel. And you can go forwards and backwards in history of your edits. So one of the things that's kind of chaotic, chaotic good, I guess, of character of Jupyter is that you can edit and execute things in different orders.
Yeah.
Right? Like
it's mind-bendy and will mess most new people up for sure.
Yes, exactly. It's like, oh, go to is bad, but maybe you could just manually go to at whim. Anyway, one of the features is you can jump forwards and backwards in terms of last edits. So maybe you edited cell 7 and then cell 22
nice.
And then 20. So you can jump around in that through like some UI.
So it has like a history order of like where you've been.
Yeah, it's like a back forward button.
Yeah, now if I could just have something similar in Slack to know where the heck I've been in Slack.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Let me just flip through, see what else there is. There's a bunch of other things. Like this is only some of them, right? That's just the stuff they had annotated. The terminal is a little more, how shall we say, coding agent friendly. So you can open stuff in the terminal. Oh, we should get nerd fonts. I don't know if you can put nerd fonts in there or not, but there's a way they say it. That's not it. Yeah. So the terminal no longer traps keyboard focus, which is interesting. And here we go. This is the one. Pressing Shift-Enter in the terminal now inserts a new line without executing the current line. This matches the behavior expected by certain terminal applications. I wonder which ones those are.
It's
Pi, Claude Code,
yeah,
et cetera, right?
The annoying thing is that some of the web UI versions of those tools uses like Command Enter or Control Enter and not or Shift Enter instead of a standard Shift Enter. So I had to fix that for some folks around here who wanted a consistency between OpenAI and Anthropic tooling.
That's fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to leave it there. There's a bunch more features, as you can see, and I kind of called out and so on. But yeah, it's if you notebook, and especially if you do stuff with Jupyter, a lot of changes there. People can.
I mean, it looks like they got a ton of new features, like a lot of like creature comforts. That's pretty exciting for folks who are living day in and day out in the Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter Server world. But let's talk about another AI agent that got released very, very recently. This is probably within the last 2 weeks. The fine folks at Hugging Face have released Tau, which is 2 times pi, and it is a agent built mimicking a lot of Pi's. I think they were inspired by the fact that how minimalistic Pi was, but they wanted Pi to do some other things, and most of it being written in Python, watching it and teach you how it is working under the covers. So part of the goals with this coding agent is actually to have small readable layers, have it output back to you what it is working on, what it's doing. A lot of that gets kind of, if you've ever used Claude Code or even Pi, you'll see a lot of thinking dot dot dot, or conjugulating, whatever the verb of the randomizer put in there for you, but it kind of hides the what's going on under the covers. But here, this is actually the opposite. They're trying to no hidden machinery. Every moving part is put on the page. I think it's pretty. I tried it out yesterday. The models become streams. You basically want to build an agent loop. So Tau, it's going to be hard not to say pi. Tau is made up of three pieces: the Tau AI, the Tau agent, and the Tau coding. And any of these pieces are able to be swapped out. So the idea is you could make your own front ends for the Tau coding part of this, build your own TUI, CLI, shell scripts, tools, etc. that are on the front of that. What's nice is every part is visible. If you've used, one of the things I liked about Claude Cowork is that on the sidebar inside of Claude Cowork, it shows you like the to-do list it's putting together for the actions it's going to take. It shows you which skills have been picked up and used, which connectors got pulled into the context window. This one goes a step further and shows you what tools are currently active in the current window. Let's see if there's anything else interesting down through here. One thing I wanted, let me just show it. I got it running over here. I will unshare this bit here and I'll put my terminal in here. This will be obviously live, real time, potential danger, but it's kind of pretty.
I'm here for it. I'm here for
You're
it.
here
So
for
many
it?
people say, "Oh, you should never do demos." I'm like, you know what? No, that makes
Yeah.
it real. Let's do it.
Yeah, so you can see on the left-hand bar here, you've got details about the session, what provider you're currently running, what level of thinking, number of tools, number of skills. I think this is important because a lot of this gets hidden under the covers when you're using Claude Code. Unless you go and investigate and kind of ask it specifically what it's using in its current context window, I like having this available because then you could see something get out of hand. If there's all of a sudden brought in 20 tools and the context window is exploding and you're not sure why you're getting back poor results, this would surface that sooner for you. You can see what skills are currently loaded. Actually, that skill I wrote as part of this session. So I came in and I said, let's build a memory system for my AI agents. And so the memory system, I kind of asked it for an explanation of what a memory system would be. And you can see it's really more like reading a textbook than it is having it code up just the code for you. So it really gives you full examples.
Also, I'm getting a little bit of notebook vibes. Actually, it's got a little bit of like
that kind
a
of
storytelling UI.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the goal is for it to tell you as it goes, teach you. I mean, here it doesn't need to output all this to do its work. It's outputting all this to help you understand. And that was me asking it about dictionaries. But then I went in and was like, okay, from the dictionary, let's start a new. Here it is, the memory piece right here. We've got the idea of semantic memory, episodic memory, and procedural memory. And so it explains each of those terms to you, what the goals are, what the memory retrieval loop would be. And this was just the explanation. At some point, then I said, okay, great. Build me a simple memory system that understands episodic, semantic, and procedural memory. So then it goes into planning. It looks at what's already inside the system, created the whole first couple modules, created some documentation, and then it shows me how to run it. And at some point, I'm like, oh, no, update agents.md to make sure we're always using UV. So if you want to check out Tau, you can UV install, tool install Tau-AI, and that will get you the Tau CLI ready for you to use. It is, again, very early days. It is only a couple weeks old, but I'm a learner at heart, so I love the idea of having this explained to me so that I understand what's going on. I can make better decisions about the code, and I can have fun playing at the same time. So this actually built the skill, installed the skill into the system, and now is using its own skill for memory. So again, that essence of Pi, where you build your extensions, you make your coding environment the way you want it to be, that's what they're trying to take, but also with more the explainer going on behind the scenes too. So pretty cool.
Very cool. It actually reminds me a little bit of Hermes, which I talked about last week, in the sense that it's kind of self-improving.
Yep.
And you can sort of change around the pieces. Honestly, this inspires me a little bit more than Claude Code, the terminal version.
Well, and that's the piece I didn't do yet is like in the docs they talk about it is take this to the next level by establishing what your harness looks like, and then you create a loop. You add the looping part to it to schedule and do work. So I was one step away from I've got memory now. I can now create the loop and have it set it loose on tasks.
Yeah, very neat.
Very cool
I
stuff.
see you've got GPT 5.5.
Yeah.
Have you tried 5.6 Soul or any of these
I have not yet.
new
No, I
things?
haven't had a chance to. I did the most basic of basic thing. I said slash login OpenAI, and that's what it gave me. I was like, let's go.
Perfect. Well, it definitely looks really cool.
Yeah. So thanks to the fine folks over at Hugging Face, they're still doing great work over there, year after year. Love it.
Yeah. Also, I was going to say, like you said, it has a kind of like just getting started vibes and so on, and I would be a little bit not concerned, but just hesitant to go all in on something that's like a side project of someone's. But Hugging Face, you know,
Yeah, and it's already got like 1,500 GitHub stars. I think I like it. It's beautiful. It does look nice. It shows me all the information
yeah,
I want to see. And that's important. I'm about the experience of my workstation, and so
yes.
this definitely
I think
falls
the
into that.
other, yeah, and I think the other thing is I really like how it shows you kind of what it's doing and how it's
Yeah,
thinking because it's so easy to just make these things become an easy button, turn your
yeah,
brain off and
yep,
go. But on the other side, it can be an incredible learning thing. You're like, what? Okay, I don't make that is actually new to me. Tell me what that does. Why are you doing this? You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yep.
If you don't know what's happening, how do you know to ask that?
Well, it's funny because I asked it about memories, and so it actually looked into its memories, and obviously it says user prefers UV, and then I love to execute Python from UV, and I created a simple memory system. So it's already using its own memory system that it built with 2 prompts.
That's awesome.
Yeah, super cool.
Very cool. All right. If you were gonna have a some kind of agent, you probably want to run it in the background. So let's talk about Django. I just
Yeah,
had a really cool episode with Carlson Gibson over on Talk Python about he basically rewrote Django's async documentation saying it was really out of date and it had a lot of warnings like, oh, you shouldn't do this or this won't perform that well. And they're actually like, you know what? That's not true. The stuff is really good now. You should probably use async in Django, but our docs tell people they should be wary. So let me rewrite that. And part of that conversation, we talked about Django's new task framework, which is part of version 6.0. So so often you have got to think like, all right, well, I'm working on some request and maybe it's slow, so I could use async and await on it potentially. But a better way often is like people don't actually even need the response. They don't need to wait on this. Like I'm going to send you a reset email. Email already is oddly asynchronous and non-verifiable. So what are you're gonna send an email and like what wait for Pixel to open before you respond? Like you can't do that, right? You just got to just send it and let it go. And so a lot of times people will do something like Celery or RabbitMQ or some other
which is
mechanism to
heavy.
run.
Yeah, very
Yes,
heavy.
yeah, exactly. It's like you've gone from running like a single worker and a platform as a service to now you've got a DevOps and a virtual private network for your servers to live in, and like, it's like a huge jump, right? So this task framework kind of attempts to solve that in a frameworky way. So what you can do is it's not exactly a task execution story. It's more of a way to like, I guess, like an adapter or facade type of design pattern that says, here's how you program tasks in Django. The task backend that you stick in it means maybe it still goes to Celery, or maybe it runs in a background thread. I don't know. We'll figure that out. You configure the thing in different ways. All right. So basically, that's how it works. You set up your tasks, you define the backend. There's only one that comes with it, and it's oddly unsatisfying to me. It's the immediate execution backend, which means like when you
Yeah,
enqueue a task, it just blocks and executes. It goes, okay, it's enqueued when it's done. And really, that's just for execution as a developer, so you don't have to set up anything. I'll tell you what I wish was actually in there for development and for like 75% of all deployments. There's also the dummy backend. They missed a chance to like the null backend, like the null pattern. Like here's a thing you don't have to check for null or see if it's configured, but it just does nothing, right? So this is for like testing. So you can enqueue things and so on, and like, you know what? No, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Basically, like a built-in way to say turn off tasks, which is, I would imagine, really just for testing. Because anyway, so there's third-party backends, and there's a ecosystem here. It also has async support.
Yeah,
Right? We
that's
talked about
what I was
async,
interested in.
yeah, that's pretty neat. So a lot of cool stuff here. You can just put the @task decorator on a function, and it's now a task, and so on.
This is so nice
And
compared to what it used to be. So Django's had
yeah,
this level of ability, like with Django channels and async and workers, backend workers, but the usability of it as a developer was always tricky. Like it wasn't very well published. It was hard to use. You had to do a little bit of, we did this back in 2020 when we first launched the LoudSwarm platform. We had to use background async workers like that to establish connections, WebSocket connections to things like Discord. And it was some gymnastics to make it work. This looks so much nicer. So
yeah,
thank you all to whoever put in the effort to make this usability and the API, the usability of as a developer for this to be so nice.
yeah. It looks really, really nice. And then
It does.
the community stuff is good. Yeah, LoudSwarm being your like online conference stuff that you've launched at a very timely time of 2020.
Definitely.
So for 75% of the people, I would point them at this project by Lincoln Loop called
Yep.
Django Tasks Local. And the idea here is it uses either threading or processing backends.
Mm-hmm.
No Celery, no Redis, no database, no configuration necessary, right? So this is really cool. You basically just plug this in, and then when you run it, it just runs in a background thread. And so it really does immediately return, and it really does do these things. The one thing that you're really giving up here, I guess, depending on what you choose in thread pool, until you do free threaded Python, you're still subject to the guild. But
Yeah.
most of these background tasks are not heavily computational. They're talking to a database. They're
Right.
talking to a SMTP
There's some kind of
endpoint or
weight.
whatever.
Yeah, it's not a lot of CPU. It's mostly probably IO weight, or you just need to be unbounded and get a quick response back to your end users.
Right.
Or
Even
you have startup tasks. That was the thing we needed it for. We needed something to happen at Django startup.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you just fire that off. Yeah, so you could choose process backend if you really want like true separation. The one thing that you're giving up here is durability, right? Like if you deploy a new version and the task thing is grinding through some tasks and Docker says, time for a new one, goodbye.
Yeah. Well, you have to you go into it knowing that eyes wide open, and you account for, I'm okay if it dies, but I know how to handle recovery.
Yeah, sure. And how most projects, how much backend traffic do they really have? Right? They're sending an email because you said reset my email or something, but
Yeah.
most sites are, 1,000 people at your company use this internal thing, and that would be a big deal, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not Netflix scale or
No,
whatever,
but
right?
when you need celery, you need celery, and then you can get into more durable queues and retry patterns and those kinds of things.
Right, or temporal or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, cool. So check out Django Task and Django Task Local. All right, Calvin. Feeling extra?
I got one extra for you. The current release manager for Python 3.14, they've always been looking for fun little puns to do on the fact that this is the Pi release of Python, but actually it ended up becoming a fix in the dictionary. And Michael, it's not the dictionary you're thinking of. It is actually the Oxford Dictionary. They found a bug in the dictionary in its own citation of a citation usage of pi symbol from 1706. So they
Wow.
have upstreamed the fix. It's got approved and published. And so because of the messings around and playing with pi and the latest release of Python, we got stumbled upon an actual markup bug in their own dictionary and got it published. So thanks to
You're right.
Hugo
That is not,
for doing that for us. It is not the dict; it is the actual dictionary.
oh, okay. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, Oxford English Dictionary.
Not quite a joke, but almost.
Almost
Very cool.
very
But
very fun though to think that the Python community has gotten a fix upstreamed into the Oxford English Dictionary.
well, I sure hope they use Oxford commas when they put that in there. Not just you can't
You're inciting some flames, Michael.
exactly like rejected, improper use of comma. So I want to talk about for my one extra. Yeah, I think that's the only thing I have other stuff, but I'm going to leave it with this. So I'm a big fan of bunny.net. I mean, Cloudflare is all the rage, right?
I've
But
never
I
used
think
this.
bunny.net is awesome. The pricing is great. It's so easy to use. I use it for CDN. So for example, when you download a Python Bytes, like the weekly episode, that comes through the CDN for, if I can pull it up, comes through the CDN of bunny.net. But primarily, the reason I chose it, Ian Maurer recommended this to me, is because I want to use it for the courses. So for the course videos, one of the things that's a hassle is like you can use CDNs a lot. There's a bunch of options there, but it's not very common that you can share private files through CDNs, which you can with bunny.net. So that's super cool, right? So for like kind of like a S3 URL, you can sign it temporarily for like this URL is good for with this special link for 20 minutes. Play it, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so you can do that here with which is really, really great. So that's kind of how, and it's just pay as you go, which is cool. That's not what I want to talk about though, but that's why I was interested. They announced that this is another thing I use is Bunny DNS. I probably should have pulled up my DNS dashboard because I've got some ridiculously complicated DNS stuff that would have been fun to show. But I'm not logged in on this machine. It would take too long. So Bunny DNS, all you do to use it is you go to Pork Bun or Hover or Namecheap or whatever you're using, and you go to your domain and you just change two things. You just change what your, what's it called? The name servers. You just change your name server. There's two usually you got to enter for redundancy. Yeah. And then that's it. And so then you're basically running your DS through this really nice DNS management console instead of whatever crappy thing that like GoDaddy gives you. You're like, why is this so hard? So you just like make one change. You don't change your provider. You don't move your domains. You just flip the name server and you're over here. And this has really cool things like I would like this key or this domain or this TXT, whatever, right? Whatever you're managing DNS. Like I want this valid for 15 seconds. Because I'm testing right now, or things like that. So it's really cool.
That's
built
baked
on
into their API platform. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, you can put it for an hour or a day or whatever for the time to live. But if you're working, like while you're setting stuff up, that is so painful. Because if you leave it in a half an hour or an hour, then you change something. You're like, oh no, I set it up wrong. Well, I'm gonna go to lunch. We'll try it again. Hopefully I get it right next time. But if you put it on 15 seconds or whatever, it's just like try it again. And it's really, really sweet. Gives you a bunch of cool graphs and stats and analytics. So all this is free. So play with it. It's cool. I'm a fan of bunny.net.
Very cool. Do they have do you know if they have a Terraform or tofu provider?
Fine question. I have no idea.
For next time.
I do know that they do a Google fonts alternative.
Oh, that's nice too, yeah.
And what's really nice about this is I believe they're a European company, and this is like a privacy first Google fonts.
So no tracking, yeah.
Exactly, no tracking, and it also means if the only reason you had one of those terrible, you didn't think about the consequences when you made this law, did you? Cookie banners, because you use Google fonts, you can switch to this, and then you don't have to have a cookie banner, which is great.
I like that. I like that a lot.
If it was Google fonts, the only reason, right? There's obviously other ones. So anyway, check Michael, it out. It's free. I'm a fan.
You got any jokes for us, Michael?
I do have some jokes. Now,
these jokes, they cracked me up.
Oh, you peeked? Oh,
I did.
Okay.
I peeked.
I think they're going to be fun. So a lot of times we just have pictures or some kind of cartoon or something. These are just, I hesitate to call them dad jokes,
I was
but they're
gonna say
kind of like
they're
dad
good
jokes.
old. I think they're good old school dad jokes.
Yeah. So I got three. I picked three. Maybe we'll come back with some more, but you know. So here we go. Are you ready, Calvin?
I'm ready. Hit me.
What's the object-oriented way to become wealthy? Inheritance. I mean, OOP is not as popular as it used to be, especially in the
that's
Python
true.
world.
But I'm definitely a designated laugher for dad jokes. I can't help
Yeah.
myself.
I know. My daughter and I found like a 200 dad jokes page once and just sat there all day and read it. It was great. I mean, think of how rich like Java and .NET people are.
Tons of inheritance.
Tons. I mean, so much more. So it's so corporate. It's just money flows through
But is
that.
it
There's
inheritance?
so much inheritance.
Is it inheritance if it's tech debt?
I don't think so. And you spread it out. Everyone's getting inheritance. Like
Yeah.
that's the difference, right?
Spread
It's
the love.
diluted. All right, next one. This is very Confucius or Neo. To understand what recursion is, you must first understand what recursion is.
That one hits. That one hits for sure. Because
Yeah.
you have to sit and think.
I still remember my first CS class that I took. I only took a couple because I was a math major, but the first one in the Lisp as well. They're like, we're going to tell you about recursion. I'm like, first of all, what is this language? Why are there so many parentheses? And why is it always recursion? This is so crazy.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
I only took a couple CS classes in college as well, but I remember my first time I hit recursion hardcore in a production problem. I was like, whoa, this is crazy what it can do.
It totally is. All right, the last one to take us out of here is 3 SQL statements walk into a NoSQL bar. Soon they walk out. They couldn't find a table. Oh, it's too good.
This is good. And
Yeah.
some people have a knack for joke telling like this, and I'm a consumer of them, not a creator of them.
Yes, I'm always impressed with people that can come up with these jokes as well. But
Yeah,
I do
on
love
the
them.
fly. I love it.
That's right.
That's awesome.
All right, Calvin. Awesome to
Thank you,
spend
Michael.
some time talking Python with you. Yeah, see
Love
you
it.
later. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.